Unit 12, Gateway. When photography came along in the 19th century, painting was put in crisis. The photograph, it seemed, did the work of imitating nature better than the painter ever could. Some painters made practical use of the invention. There were Impressionist painters who used a photograph in place of the model or landscape they were painting. But by and large, the photograph was a challenge to painting and was one cause of paintings moving away from direct representation and reproduction to the abstract painting of the 20th century. Therefore, the painters of that century put more focus on expressing nature, people, and cities as they were in reality. Since photographs did such a good job of representing things as they existed in the world, painters were freed to look inward and represent things as they were in their imagination, rendering emotion in color, volume, line, and spatial configurations native to the painter's art. Exercise 1. According to evolutionary biologist Elizabeth Sahtouris, cooperation is the only way toward sustainability. Mature ecosystems such as prairies and rainforests evolve when there is more cooperation than when there is hostile competition. The highly complex ecosystem of the rainforest is a particularly vivid example of a mature system that has survived through millions of years because species learn to cooperate with each other. Deforestation comes in many forms, including fires, clear cutting for agriculture, unsustainable logging for timber, and degradation due to climate change. In the rainforest, every species is fully employed. All work cooperatively while recycling all of their resources, and all products and services are distributed in such a way that every species remains healthy. That is sustainability. Exercise 2. The word scientist in its present meaning did not become a part of language until the modern era. In ancient and medieval times, philosophy was everything, and the philosopher was the caretaker of human wisdom. He knew of the moral law, religion, government, natural history, alchemy, mathematics, healing, and all knowledge. Indeed, the diligent scholar at one time had been able to master the entire sum of academic learning. This is in striking contrast with the world of today, in which a man may devote a lifetime to a single type of germ or bacteria, and still consider his subject vast and complex enough for a full generation of profound study. What we call today the philosophy of science includes the theories of knowledge and of learning, as well as the study of the principles of science. Having few details to bother about in his pursuit of knowledge, the ancient could think in broad and encompassing terms. Exercise 3. In America, we find a long history of mourning practices for non-human animals. Indeed, the human-animal relationship is neatly blended into American history and continues to grow and change as society continues to evolve. During the pre-colonial period, Native Americans formed complex relationships with a variety of animals like bison, deer, and other woodland creatures. Many hunting tribes showed great respect for animals, and even though they needed to hunt them for food and other uses, they felt that they must be killed in a proper, ritualized manner. Hunting strategies diversified with the development of the bow about 18,000 years ago, and the domestication of the dog about 15,000 years ago. Some Native Americans believed that animal deaths are temporary and that the animal would be reincarnated and return to our world as the same species. If the hunter did not kill the animal properly, the animal could return as a ghost and haunt the hunter and possibly infect him with a disease. Exercise 4. In the United States, there has been a trend toward the dissolution of the traditional nuclear family. With people marrying later and divorcing more often, the typical family of father, mother, and children living in one dwelling has become far less common than in the past. More recently, a similar trend in Western Europe has resulted in an increase in the number of households even in countries where the overall population is decreasing. Instead of buying and owning things, consumers nowadays want access to goods and prefer to pay for the experience of temporarily accessing them. This outcome has in turn increased demand for many consumer durables, such as washing machines and ovens, whose sales correlate with the number of households rather than with population. Also, an increasing number of women are working outside the home, a situation that boosts demand for frozen dinners and childcare centers. Exercise 5. If all our knowledge stopped at the level of the senses, we would be no better off than the subhuman members of the animal kingdom. Different animals have different levels of proficiency on the sense level. In many cases, it's much better than anything human beings can do. Eagles see much better. Dogs can detect odors that completely escape our power of smell. And some animals fly through the air using radar. In fact, these animals display such amazing examples of evolution that early humans worshipped them as gods. But we can do something that our pets can't do, to wit, form concepts and then put concepts together in reasoning processes. By reflecting upon this ability, we come to realize that we must have a mind distinct from our body, and that, regardless of how much pseudoscience there is in the world, it's a grave error to confuse the mind with the body. Exercise 6. The social reform movement and the cause for wilderness preservation can both be understood as romantic efforts to counter the negative consequences of the Industrial Revolution. Artists and writers came to appreciate nature as an aesthetic object in the 19th century. They celebrated in their work the awe-inspiring phenomena and natural scenery that they believed were capable of transforming one's soul. Transcendentalist writers like Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Walt Whitman saw in untamed nature the hand of God. The Hudson River School painters were the first to treat the landscape as a legitimate genre in itself, devoid of any classical imagery. The genre of landscape painting has often been connected to the politics of land ownership in Europe. They were instrumental in developing a sense of pride and value in the unique American landscape. Exercise 7. An interesting aspect of human psychology is that we tend to like things more and find them more appealing if everything about those things is not obvious the first time we experience them. This is certainly true in music. For example, we might hear a song on the radio for the first time that catches our interest and decide we like it. Then the next time we hear it, we hear a lyric we didn't catch the first time, or we might notice what the piano or drums are doing in the background. A special harmony emerges that we missed before. Music can be appreciated by anyone who takes the time to listen, but it can only be realized effectively in performance by well-trained musicians. We hear more and more and understand more and more with each listening. Sometimes the longer it takes for a work of art to reveal all of its subtleties to us, the more fond of that thing, whether it's music, art, dance, or architecture, we become. Exercise 8. Vision has until recently been perceived as being the most powerful of our five senses. However, research indicates that this may no longer be true. Whatever the case, there's no escaping the fact that distinctive design often goes hand in hand with distinctive brands, and successful brands are by their very nature visually identifiable. Pharmaceutical companies make their tablets and capsules in all shapes, sizes, and colors, with each one intended to differentiate the product, impart a particular emotional feel to the drug, and instill customer loyalty. One reason design is difficult is that the designer already has the knowledge expressed in the design, has seen it develop from inception, and therefore cannot see it with fresh eyes. The automobile industry is another category where shape plays a vital role. In many models, shape has become the defining feature.